Good morning. There'll be now an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you. Before we start, I would just like to make some house rules, especially to our visitors, that during the proceedings, you are not allowed to participate in the debate. So you cannot clap hands, you cannot take photos with your cell phones or your cameras, you cannot whistle, so you just very quiet participant. You can smile though. Thank you very much. I hope that you'll have the cooperation. The secretary will read the order.
Debate on vote number 29, mineral resources.
I'll now call upon the Minister of Mineral Resources.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, Deputy Minister of Mineral Resources, Cabinet colleagues present here today, Comrade Patel, Comrade Skwacha, Chairperson and members of the Portfolio Committee on Mineral Resources. I think we should take this moment once more to send our condolences to Comrade Zedlu Zipho and his family, who buried their father this past weekend. Honorable members, invited guests, as Nelson Mandela intimated, we've always known that our freedom would never be complete until the people of Palestine are also free. These words are even more true today, having witnessed the carnage meted out by Israel forces in Gaza yesterday. We send our sympathies and solidarity to the people of Palestine, and we commend our Department of Resources for its response by withdrawing our country's ambassador to Israel. Such is our commitment to our solidarity as the African National Congress. It is indeed an honor to table budget to vote number 29 before this House today on my 78th day in office. Meaning that because it's my maiden budget vote, I cannot be heckled. I cannot be heckled. Yes. I've used the 78 days to reacquaint myself with the critical issues facing the industry and to understand some of the challenges facing the department. As stated publicly, policy and legislation, health and safety, mining rights and application of mining licenses and illegal mining, along with related criminal activities, are among the immediate priorities and receive urgent attention from our department. The department strategic plan 2014 to 2019 with the relevant vision is the framework we work within as a department. Both the vision and the mission statements focus us in our work as the regulator and an enforcer of compliance in the sector. Vision 2019 states that we want to build, I quote, a globally competitive, sustainable, and meaningfully transformed mining and mineral sector. And Vision 2030 sets the task of being the leader in transformation of South Africa through economic growth and sustainable development by 2030. The mission set out in the strategic plan is that of promoting and regulating the mineral mining sector for transformation, growth, and development, and ensuring that all South Africans derive sustainable benefits from the country's mineral wealth. Now, this is important, therefore, to reflect on what we have achieved and look at how we can accelerate the pace of transformation to realize our overarching socio-economic objectives. Honorable members, the department's allocation is 1.9 billion rand for the financial year 2018-2019. A considerable portion of this funding, that is 51% thereof, goes to entities reporting to the department. MINTEC and Council for Geoscience are receiving 83% of that 51% allocated to these entities. For the critical work being undertaken in research and development. Quite an important work because that is where we invest into the future instead of investing in the current. We look forward. Research and development is quite important because it's future in outlook. Now, the funding allocated to the department and its portfolio of entities remain inadequate. If we are to effectively carry out our mandate, and then addressing this anomaly is important so that as part of the economic sectors, employment and infrastructure development, cluster of government, we are better able in being a catalyst for growth and development of the economy. An insufficient allocation of resources curtails our efforts and creates more economic opportunities. We are mindful of the fiscal constraints that are imposed by the government. It's necessary we support that, but our view is that limited resources at our disposal curtail our ability to do what we're supposed to be doing. Now, honorable members, South Africa's economy, including the financial sector, among others, is built on the back of our enormous mineral resources. So mineral resources has facilitated transformation of the economy from an agricultural economy to what it is today. And which have made a massive contribution over the years. Mining plays a strategic role in economic growth and development. Recent data supported by Statistics South Africa shows that mining production increased by 3.1% year on year in February 2018, indicating a recovery from the previous periods. However, this positive growth was reversed by the 8.4% plunge in mining production in March, which was a result of serious downturn of 18% in gold, 8.9% in iron ore, and 6.1% in platinum group metals. That's what PGMs mean, is platinum group metals. Now, that decline, you must remember that gold has been active for more than 130 years, and therefore the decline is natural in the sense that minerals are not like a drink where you mix water and syrup and produce a cold drink. That deposits, you mine them, if you mine them out, they don't grow again. That's the nature of mining. Now, an urgent message is that we must work hard to instill and maintain stability in the industry. We must ensure policy and regulatory certainty. That is one area that we're focused on, because if there's instability in the industry, nobody benefits. Now, the high number of mines and shafts that are under care and maintenance contribute heavily to the massive decline in both production and employment. And when you talk of a mine that is under care and maintenance, you talk of a mine that has economic deposits but is not mined. And therefore it's a function of high grading, where mines focus on high grades and reserve the marginal sections to the time when the price improves. The risk goes with that is that you can sterilize those minerals forever. That is one area that we're looking at. Therefore, in this regard, we'll meet with the companies that are culprits of these practices. We intend to discuss honestly and robustly on the use it or lose it principle with the mining companies, because if you sterilize deposits, I don't think we should allow you to sterilize them as you like. We should, again, revisit that principle of use it or lose it. The relative stability seen in the sector in recent times bodes well for the sustainability of the mining and the creation of conducive environment for investment. South Africa accounts for 94% of known global reserve of platinum group metals, 73.7% of chrome, 29% of manganese, 18.4% of vanadium, 10.5% of gold reserves. As a leading producer and supplier of the range of minerals, the country offers a highly competitive investment location, enabling us to meet the specific trade and investment requirements of prospective investors and business people as we meet the development needs of our people. The country has the potential to supply a large share of global demand for many commodities. But the high endowment of natural resources and high mineral potential can only be developed and sustained through a vibrant exploration sector. If you don't explore, you have the deposits, you don't know where they are. Hence the importance of the integrated and multidisciplinary mapping program of the Council for Geoscience at a scale of 1 to 50,000, which is underway as part of creating a capable institution in line with the aspirations of the NDP. The program will help identify new mineralizing systems, adding to our flagship of the Wits Basin of gold, the Bushveld Engineers complex of PGMs, and the manganese fields of the Northern Cape. This will in turn assist to source new resources for development, employment creation, and economic growth and accelerated transformation. In this current year, we will process the request for presidential proclamation to give effect to the provisions of the Geoscience Act that were held in abeyance when Geoscience Amendment Bill was promulgated. In part, this will actually bring South Africa in line with the world in respect of submission of all historical and current geological information to the CGS. Now, legislative amendments. It is important for us to appreciate the fact that it is urgent for us to accelerate the process of passing the MPRDA, which is now before the NCOP, because declaring it is contributing to policy and regulatory uncertainty. Number two, it is quite important that as we do that, we develop and rebuild relationship and trust of our primary clients. That is the mining industry, that is business, labor, and communities. Frank and open discussion with our stakeholders will enable us to serve them better. We've started that, as you will know, that in terms of following through the issue of the charter discussions. We're all out there trying to finalize it within the stipulated period of 3 months, so we're hoping that we'll be able to achieve that by June. and published the charter, I can report that we're in serious engagement with all our stakeholders. We've visited up to now 7 community areas, mining communities, and we're still having a schedule for other 5. Once we finish that, we think that we'll have done a lot of ensuring that there is consultation around that charter, and that will minimize the risk of the charter being rejected. And you must remember that the president called upon us to pull that engagement out of the courts and reach a settlement. We're on the way to do that. We're in agreement with all the stakeholders on 80% of the charter. I know when I talk about 80%, I get criticized that how do I measure 80%? Sometimes percentages are estimated. And if we can finish the 5 areas that we're intending to visit, I will have covered a great deal of communities that contribute to this. Now, the mining sector, therefore, is required to increase its contribution to the GDP of the country. It must operate optimally for the benefit of society. If production is consistently disrupted, capacity to deliver is also disrupted. Hence the importance of the department and individual mines to engage the mining communities and workers so that all stakeholders are part and appreciate the developments in the sector. One of the things we pick up as we go to these regions is that either the DMR or the mines themselves are not trusted by those communities because they hardly talk to them. Now, trust doesn't fall on you. Trust is earned by engaging the relevant stakeholders. That is the commitment that we're making. Transformation and competitive growth will best serve the country when they happen in an environment of mining communities that feel and see benefits of mining. Communities must not feel that mines pollute environment, they create scars on the land, and that's all they know. They must see the benefits of having mining. I always describe mining as both a curse and a blessing because it creates opportunities, but it also creates serious problems. I describe mining as having 4 Ds. It is difficult, dangerous, dirty, and diseased. So it's an industry that needs to be attended to. We must all pay attention to it and appreciate the nature of the animal we're dealing with. According to Fraser Institute, that is an international rating agency that is rating 91 mining economies, South Africa has a potential of being rated at number 21 overall. But currently, on investor attractiveness, we are rated number 47. On policy and regulatory framework, we are rated number 80 out of 91. Out of 91. It is evident that the conflict in the industry around the charter and the failure to accelerate finalizing the MPRDA create an impression in the world that we are not a serious economy, we cannot attract investment. It is therefore urgent for us to complete both those policy and regulatory pieces of work, because until we do that, our contribution to uncertainty regarding policy and regulatory framework is going to remain big. Since South Africa is part of the global economic village, it is necessary to heed surveys from rating agencies. We should aim to be competitive and use our competitive advantage to attract investment. Sometimes it is short-sighted to feel that why should we impress the rating agencies and investors? What about ourselves? That is short-sighted and actually a self-defeating assumption that you cannot be competitive when you are in the global village and hope that you can be in isolation. It's a mistake that we should not commit ourselves to. The department is in the process of renewing the housing and living condition standards, which are developed in terms of Section 100 of the MPRDA. The review seeks to address the historic and systemic policies of discrimination and marginalization of mine workers in terms of their working and housing and living conditions, and to provide for the progressive realization and the protection of their basic constitutional rights to human dignity through provision of adequate access to housing, better living conditions, and related amenities. Now, the MPRDA is before the NCOP. Our view is that if we can finalizing it, will make a good contribution to the stability of our economy. We will be meeting the NCOP on the 7th of May, and I hope that we'll actually resolve all the problems that are outstanding there. In terms of licensing, issuing of mining rights and proper processing of application for mining licenses is among our key priorities. This aspect of our work is fraught with greater challenges and laced with corruption. From declining prospecting rights, unprocessed application, and unexplained red tape is one area that we're paying attention to. And I can tell you that in terms of preliminary investigation, we have found that backlog on new mineral rights application stretches as far back as 2012. In some regional offices, it has further been found that the application for renewal of prospecting rights application go to as far back as 2010. The implication of unprocessed renewal application is that it blocks any other party from applying for mineral rights in that area. No satisfactory reasons were advanced as to why we have this backlog. The word in the corridors is that application from the known and the paying applicants are prioritized. Internal systems to detect these delays in the processing of mineral rights application is non-existent, and the renewal applications are normally dealt with on applicants' request, otherwise it is hardly attended to. And I'm highlighting this issue because as a department, we're committed to deal hard with corruption. And in dealing with corruption, we're not only going to chase flies, we're also going to deal with the tigers. So that is the commitment we're making, because people apply for licenses and you can't delay it because you are not known or you are not paying. You must be assessed in terms of the merits of the application. And if your application is complying with the requirements, you must get your license. That's our view. Now, and we think that applications should be dealt with in chronological order with frequent report back by chief directors and their respective regional managers to the Director General on their status. And the licensing committee has started a meeting more frequently to process the applications. Now, in terms of the shale gas, the southern main Karoo Basin is considered the most prospective area for shale gas, with a possible estimation of 205 trillion cubic feet of gas, technical recoverable. As reported by Petroleum Agency SA, the successful development of this resource has the potential to transform the energy economy in South Africa. To that end, we intend to move with speed and to fast-track the finalization of exploration rights application so that South Africa can maximize its chances to reaping the benefits from shale gas exploration and exploitation. In due course, I will publish a notice in terms of the Promotion of Administration Justice Act to invite comments from the persons who may be materially and adversely affected by our decision on 3 shale gas application with us. So we want to accelerate that. We've been talking about it, has stood there for years and years. We're doubting what we should do about it. In terms of enforcing compliance, with the MPRD and mine health and safety, it is imperative for sustainable mining. The department has embarked on compliance audits on social labor plans and procurement, which will continue in the current financial year. The aim is to ensure that social labor plan projects are aligned with integrated development plans. Our view is that you can't have SLPs of mines not aligned with the IDPs of municipalities because development becomes fragmented, and it is in our interest and the interest of those communities to integrate those plans. Section 52 processes of the MPRD. The purpose of Section 52 process is to prevent mining downscaling, ameliorate job losses, and prevent retrenchments in the mining industry. That's saving jobs in the process. In addition to complying with the requirements of the MPRD, the interventions proposed are also informed by the stakeholder declaration adopted by the mining industry in August 2015. During the past financial year, a total of 26 Section 52 notices affecting approximately 32,000 workers were received. The mining companies most affected are those in gold, platinum, and coal. The Mineral Petroleum Board, supported by the department, has successfully processed 18 of those applications. Notwithstanding possible amendments of the MPRDA, the department is in the process of developing regulations for prescribing how mining companies should submit Section 52 notices. There is also a need to synchronize the implementation of Section 189 of the Labor Relations Act and that of Section 52 of the MPRDA.
Honorable Minister, your time is up.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much. I've left out mine health and safety, legal mining, and other issues, and beneficiation. I will come back to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I'll now call upon Honorable Pikinini.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honorable Ministers, Honorable Deputy Ministers, guests, and ladies and gentlemen. Let me take this opportunity first to congratulate the Minister for his maiden speech. Indeed, we are hopeful that a Minister and a Deputy Minister who are mine workers leading this portfolio, we can move the mining industry forward for the benefit of all South Africans. Honorable Chairperson, as this is the year we celebrate our icon, President Nelson Mandela will reflect on our past. Much has changed since Madiba Omde started his life as a young night watchman on a mine compound in Crown Mines, Johannesburg. His journey from his birthplace in Umvezo, Komkhulu, as a shepherd boy to a mine worker and ultimately first president of Edinburgh, South Africa, is a symbol of hope for the millions who continue to labor in this vital sector of our national economy. When you remain resilient and principled, there's no goal that you can't achieve. It was proven by Madiba. In one of his earliest addresses to the industry, Madiba spoke to the 104th annual AGM of the Chamber of Mines in November 1994 and reminded us that, I quote, the mining industry, by virtue of the place it occupies in our economy, is in a position to make a special contribution to the transformation of our society, which should have as its central objective improving the quality of life of all citizens. This remains as true now as it was then. President Mandela's words were merely echoing the Freedom Charter in which our people declared, the mineral wealth beneath the soil shall be transferred to the people as a whole. As we look back, more than 100 years ago, we remember that contribution of the mining has made to the development of our economy from the time of the colonials, such as Cecil John Rhodes, the man who founded De Beers, consolidated mines, and then used the profits to extend into gold mining in and around Johannesburg. Railways from the coast to the interior had to build to serve the needs of mining. Factories to manufacture everything from steel to dynamites to boots had to be erected. The Rand Water Board was established. 2 universities, Wits and Pretoria, were born. Today, South Africa is the 42nd largest economy in the world, out of 190 in nominal GDP, thanks to the growth and industrialization triggered by the commercial development at its mineral resources. We dare not to forget, however, especially now in Workers' Month, that while untold riches were generated from the mines and many millionaires were created, this was achieved on the back of millions of black and mostly African workers who toiled in the bowels of the earth as cheap migrant labor. The international working class song, Solidarity Forever, reminds us about the plight of workers in the capitalist world. It is we who plowed the fields, built the cities where they trade, dug the mines, and built the workshops, endless miles of railroad laid. Now we stand outcast and starving mice the wonders we have made. But the union make us strong. Honorable Chair, we have indeed come a long way. One simple indicator of this is dramatic drop in the number of mining fatalities since 1994. In 1994, the number of deaths in the sector stood at 578. That number was reduced to 74 in 2017. However, one loss of one human life is one too many. We must do all in our power to achieve the ideal of zero harm policy. As South Africans, we are blessed with some of the world's largest reserves of mineral deposits, estimated at about 2.5 trillion US dollars. While significant progress has been made, many companies have failed to fulfill their commitments under the mining charter between 2004 and 2014. We applaud those companies that complied and in some instances exceeded the target set. However, this is not merely a compliance exercise. It goes to the heart of our project of nation building, transformation, and building a South Africa of our dreams. The sign of recovery in commodity markets bodes well for President Ramaphosa's call for us to see mining as a sunrise industry. In 2017, the direct contribution of mining to total GDP was 312 billion, about 6.8%. The contribution of mining to fixed investment was 93.4 billion, and total primary mineral sales was 424 billion. The mining industry paid royalties of 5.8 billion and taxes amounting to 16 billion. Employment is estimated to have increased by 16% during 2017, which can be attributed partially to the growth experienced in the industry. In 2017, export from mining constituted 27% of the country's 1.1 trillion export revenue. Honorable Chair, since the promulgation of the MPRDA in 2002 and the mining charter in 2004, the number of women in the industry has significantly increased. However, we must continue efforts to make a career in mining more welcome to females. The mining sector is a key contributor to realizing our vision of the NTP. We have been speaking about the mineral beneficiation for a number of years now. Precious and semi-precious stones are a case in point, where rural folk in Northern Cape are paid a pittance. South African minerals continue to build the economies of Tel Aviv, Antwerp, and Delhi, where the bulk of our diamonds are destined. Guided by the resolution of the governing party on the radical economic transformation, it is vital that we grow local procurement and provide the mineral for growing local downstream beneficiation to increase opportunities for black economic empowerment, community development, and job creation. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now approaching the end of the term of the 5th Parliament. It is therefore critical that we work to the best of our abilities to ensure that there is a policy of certainty in the mining industry. In this regard, we firmly committed to support the finalization of the MPRDA and the mining charter this year. Transformation can only occur in a growing and competitive mining industry. We welcome the significant increase in the participation of historically disadvantaged individuals. A number of HDIs, owned companies, are playing a pivotal role in creating value and benefiting our mineral wealth. This work is supported by statutory entities in the sector, including the Council of Geoscience and Mintech. We congratulate all our entities on job well done and encourage them to always strive to adhere to good governance and zero tolerance for corruption. More importantly, the department and its entities must continue to ensure that we effectively address unemployment and poverty. We thank you very much for that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Pekinen.
We
Honorable
support the
Lorima.
budget. Thanks.
Madam House Chair, the French statesman Talleyrand said of the Bourbons when they were restored to the French monarchy in 1814, "They have learned nothing and they have forgotten nothing." That description of the famously reactionary French dynasty is about as perfect a description as one may find of ANC mining policy. It's a twin failure, either to learn from the results of its policies or to be driven by the future rather than by the past. There was a short window of hope for the mining industry when the Ramaphosa presidency began. That was dashed by two events. First, the minister making it clear that Mining Charter 3 would be the basis for new charter negotiations, and second, by his decision to appeal the court ruling that the charter should be applied according to the once empowered, always empowered principle. That made it clear that the ANC was not going to have a new approach and remains blind to the effects of its charter. If somebody starting a mine has to give away 26% of it, it stands to reason the mine must be 26% more profitable. Otherwise, the investor will go elsewhere, and they do. The current discussions with the industry on the new charter continue behind closed doors. The government's touring the country, informing communities about them. I wonder if a single community suggestion has been adopted as a negotiating point by the government. When these negotiations are concluded, they will face another court challenge, and if government loses again, there'll still be no charter and no certainty and no investment. ANC mining policy has to tackle the fundamental conceptual failure of the belief that we can have increasingly strict sets of rules enforcing race-based giveaways by mining companies and still have a growing industry. The new version of the MPRDA, more than 4 years after Parliament passed it, remains mired in procedural and substantive difficulties. It's become a millstone around the ANC's neck. It's not on the programme for this House before probably late August. With the bill and the charter uncertain, there can be none of the certainty needed to attract new investment. And even when complete, these rules are not attractive to investors. Don't be under the illusion that the mining industry is in good shape. Despite the ANC whistling in the dark to keep its spirits up, it needs to face it. The industry is in a desperate condition. Statistics South Africa said mining production fell by 8.4% this year in March, as we've heard. This is happening amid signs of another global resources boom. If there is another boom, one thing's for certain, we'll miss out on it again. A recent survey by the Chamber of Mines of 16 mining companies found that new investments halved between 2012 and 2016. The survey also found that of the 16 respondents, 5 were not considering making any new investment, while another said it may even exit the country if conditions didn't improve this year. The big employing gold miners are dying. Most of them will die during the life of the next parliament. They don't make sense anymore, and government-imposed costs are driving them out of business. That's 100,000 jobs and nearly 30 billion rand in employee compensation. Where's the plan to fix it? Those mines could be given longer lives, but this government has neither the wit nor the imagination to come up with such a plan. Now, the minister says there's no crisis in the platinum industry, with 60% of those mines losing money. Mines everywhere are high grading. That's taking out the best of what's left, effectively making what is left not worth getting out. Lonmin is currently in the process of cutting 12,500 jobs, and that, we see in the papers this morning, is a good scenario compared to what else there might be. It would be frightening to know, Minister, what you would consider a crisis. A vivid example of mineral harvesting comes from the gold sector, where Harmony's Kusasalethu mine said it was going to harvest what was left and cut the life of the mine from 24 years to 5 years. That's half a career of employment for those 4,500 mine workers, cut to just 5 years. That's a real result of the ANC's mining policy failures. Perhaps one person on this side of the House will tell me why, in their allotted time, it's more important to give mining shares to a few selected cadre comrades than it is to preserve the jobs of tens of thousands of mine workers, all of whom have families which will be thrown back into poverty when those jobs are lost. Now, it's difficult to know how much to believe the department when it presents to the committee. The rosy picture it paints is at variance with what I hear continually from miners and communities. Corruption is clearly a big problem. I hear of a senior official who will not discuss a rights application before 5,000 rand in cash is put on the table. Otherwise, the application goes to the bottom of the pile. Stakeholders believe it is so bad they dare not report this crookery for fear that officials will prevent future access to licenses and use spurious safety stoppages as a weapon. Before investing here, any prospective investor will read what the Minister has referred to, the Fraser Institute report. The latest one quotes the executive director of a mining company who says, "The Department of Mineral Resources is corrupt and incapable of administering licenses in an efficient manner. Politically connected people receive special treatment on a regular basis." Glad to hear that the Minister has acknowledged this corruption. And that is a perception, and it needs to be changed. My previous suggestions to use lifestyle audits on departmental officials were ignored, but now President Ramaphosa has boosted the idea of these audits, and I think that the Minister should order such a program in his own department if he wants to make an effort to win back industry confidence. It's easy to restore confidence, but you have to indicate some sort of substantive change. We maintain our belief in the useful work being done by Mintech and the Council for Geoscience. We maintain, too, our belief that the state diamond trader should be closed down. And based on our experience with the Diamond and Precious Metals Regulator, we believe it hinders diamond mining by tangling it in a thicket of unnecessary regulation. For the 60 million rand that government spends on the regulator, we get 2 of their 5 strategic objectives, having nothing to do with their mandate, and instead trying to do the work of a development agency. Now, this is a country where 6 billion rand is taken out by illegal mining, most of it in diamonds and precious metals. The regulator is a failure, and it must go or be radically repurposed. If we're interested in real empowerment, we must now focus on growing junior mining companies. The junior sector is struggling. Their regulatory burden and rampant corruption stop it developing. Regulations must be better designed to foster new junior miners, and to this end, we believe that government should be looking seriously at differentiating its regulatory framework to lift the burden, crushing new entrants. There has been talk of an MPRDA light. I believe this should be vigorously pursued. Now, the DA alternative is completely clear. We would change the paradigm, not only for junior miners, but for all mining companies. That means deregulation. It means making it easier to mine, not more complicated and thus more expensive. That means fewer rules, properly enforced. That means certainty. One law that doesn't change according to the whim of some mining official. That means that mining regulation should be about mining, not about some grand scheme of social engineering. Most of all, it means a change in attitude by government to one where they work together with miners and investors to deliver returns, create value and create jobs, thousands of them. And that's how we get out of poverty. The Minister describes companies taking measures to avoid closure as culprits. That tells me more than you know about the slim possibility for a good working relationship between this government and the industry. But this is how we transform. This is real transformation. From the reality of half the country being in poverty to a growing, wealth-creating, inclusive success story, learning from the past and looking to the future. So the ANC has a choice. It can carry on with business as usual and continue with the slow-motion car crash that mining has become, or it can learn from its mistakes and change course completely to grow the industry to the benefit of all our people.
Honorable Lorima,
We need total change to
your time
avoid
is up.
total disaster.
Thank you, Honorable Khawula.
When the Mineral Petroleum Resources Development Act was enacted in October 2002 through Section 3, which says Mineral and petroleum resources are the common heritage of the people of South Africa, and the state is the custodian, therefore, for the benefit of all South Africans. We effectively nationalized all minerals and petroleum resources. Despite nationalization of mineral and petroleum resources, despite one of the richest minerals and petroleum resources country in the world, the sector contributes less than 20 billion in taxes annually, just over 1% of our budget. Mine workers continue to get paid slave, live in hostels like animals, and cannot feed their families. Abasebenzi badla umhlala phansi e-Eastern Cape bengazange bazifumane imali zabo zenkamnkam. Abaninzi balandulele bengazange bazifumane imali zabo izibindi zenu zinentsimbi. As if this was not enough, the Minerals and Petroleum Development Amendment Bill that was introduced in July 2003 in the 4th Parliament, not the 5th Parliament, has not been signed. It has been more than 1,600 days and the bill has not been signed because Section 80, Section 84 says government has a right and a free carried interest in all new expropriation and state participation in the holders of production rights. This is also clear and concrete demonstration of the inability of the ANC government not only to govern, but also to legislate transformation. Instead, mining charters and social labor plans are optional, are not enforceable, and have dismally failed as the preferred path towards transformation. But what did not help this department was the appointment of the corrupt Gupta stooge, Mosebenzi Zwane. When he was appointed, we warned you that the man is captured and corrupt, but you defended him. Sifuna ke aze apha kule komiti yethu azophendula ngezitsholo zobuqhophololo nalapho adlale indima uncedisa iGuptas ngelixa engungqongqoshe wezimbiwa. Andiyazi ngathi ANC yachwechwa kule nto kaZwane kutheni na ngaba nifuna umkhusela kobuqhetsa nobuqhophololo. By the time he was removed from the Department of Minerals, the damage done cannot be reversed. Many people must go to jail. The Shiva mine in Mpumalanga that was in operation, it was run down by the Guptas. Workers were not paid and social labor plans were thrown to the dustbin. The mine was then put under the rescue plan and started to recover. Workers are now paid and social plans are now recovering. And there's potential of 2,000 jobs to be created under the plan. Now, Guptas are being helped by the State Finance Development Institution, IDC, to regain Shiva mine under Gupta, frustrating the process of rescue, process to get the mine back in its feet. It's really shocking. It shows that the ANC is not serious about corruption. Mines are killing our people because safety requirements are sacrificed for profits. The department capacity to do inspection like anywhere else has collapsed. Abantu bayadilikelwa imigodi ezimine babhubhe imizimba yabo ingafumaneki abasebenzi bakhwela ikheji eziyexayo kuba idepartment ayinasakhono sokuhlola ixilonge ubume bokhuseleko iyo lonto abasebenzi ezimine bebhubha bengathandazanga wonke umsebenzi obhubhe ezimine ngenxa yokhuseleko lungatshongo khona makanikwe isinxephezelo esingaphansi esingange 500 million ezinga 5 million lonto iyakunqanda ukufa kwabantu ngokungakhathali kwenkampani zikahulumeni abantu bayatshabalala besifa abe urhulumente ekhusele inzuzo yonxiwa nkulu lonto ibonisa ukuba urhulumente akabananzanga abasebenzi basezimine uxolele ujinga iliso ekhusela onxiwa. It is our submission as a EFF. The killing of mine workers because of poor safety requirements is equal to murder by mine bosses. Workers' safety and their killing in mine is not a priority to ANC government. If it was a priority, the state would have prosecuted and sent to jail mine bosses for every death of mine worker.
Khawula, your time is up.
We must remind you, Minister, the last time you said you'll never share the seats of parliament with red overalls. We want to tell you
Honorable
that you have
Khawla.
misled the nation. You are now sharing parliament with us. And by the way,
Honorable
the best way
Khawla.
to welcome you in this parliament is
Honorable
to tell
Khawla.
you,
Honorable
Minister,
Khawla.
that we are baptizing you
Order,
by
Honorable
rejecting
Khawla.
your budget vote. We reject it. We reject it.
Order. Honorable Esterhazy.
Thank you, Chair, Minister. There can be no question that the poverty and the underdevelopment in South Africa and even on the African continent stand in stark contrast to the abundance of its mineral resources. And through this, it's obvious that the view of mining taken by the government has been thoroughly deficient, as it sought to rather prioritize rent maximization while it ignores mining's initial ability to function as a powerful lever of structural economic transformation. The National Development Plan recognized this and recommended that the Mineral and Petroleum Resources Development Amendment Bill should be amended to assure a predictable, competitive, and stable regulatory framework. But unfortunately, it seems that the intent of the department is to do the opposite of what the NDP proposes in this regard. It increased administrative discretion by delegating important regulatory functions to the Minister of Mineral Resources, particularly in regard to local beneficiation of minerals. And if that is not enough, it's trying to further cripple the industry by removing all statutory time limits for granting of rights in the Act itself. The migrant labor system, endemic to much of our mining industry and its unpleasant hangover from colonialism and apartheid, is a scar on the industry which desperately needs and requires reforming. Between 1999 and to date, in 2018, the cost of labor at our mines has increased by over 300%, while productivity declined by roughly 50%. So in reality, we are producing half of what we did before at 300 times more of the expense. What is worse is the continued delay in the promulgation of key minerals legislation, which is deterring the investment required to make this country's mining industry successful. Honourable Speaker, Honourable Chair, mining is an industry with long-term horizons. When making investments, mining companies have to project strategy decades ahead. They need certainty as to the rules under which they operate. They will simply not invest if there's any reasonable fear of unfair or unpredictable regulatory changes. And the sad irony is that while South African mining potential diminishes under the DMR's mismanagement, the country's economic growth remains inadequate to drive the changes required for this country's socio-economic challenges. The IFP supports this budget vote, but because of the infrastructure that mining companies create in rural and underdeveloped areas that uplifts communities, not because of this committee's ability. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Esterhazy. Honorable the Deputy Minister of Mineral Resources.
Honorable Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity. Honorable Minister of Mineral Resources, Comrade Gwede Mantashe, Ministers and fellow Deputy Ministers, Honorable Chairperson, Comrade Lozipo in absentia, and members of the Portfolio Committee on Mineral Resources, Nkosi Mandla Mandela, and all other traditional and religious leaders here present, honorable members of Parliament, leaders of business and trade unions, representatives of civil society and communities, Team DMR led by the Director General, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. This budget number 29 before us today represents numerical expression of our policy implementation proposals. It is clearly inadequate for a critical economic department as the Department of Mineral Resources, but we will do our best to execute our mandate under the circumstances. We therefore request honorable members to support this budget vote. My speaking time as well in this debate has been reduced by over 30%, but as a former Boy Scout, let me do the job and complain thereafter. It is on occasions such as these that we remember and salute the very many brave men and women who fought for and sacrificed their lives in our struggle for democracy. Stalwarts and veterans such as Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela, former Ambassador George Nene, former Minister Zola, Gentle Giant Square, who passed on last month, to name but a few. How fortuitous that in a year, Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela passed on, we also celebrate the 100th anniversary of the birth of Tata Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela and Mama Albertina Sisulu. It would be remiss of us as a nation if we did not use this as an opportunity to reflect, appreciate, and love the humble service as espoused by these giants of our struggle. That we celebrate the centenary of Madiba's life this year is a clarion call to each and all of us across the globe that a life is worth celebrating when it is founded on ethical values and dedicated to the fight for the liberation of mankind. Madiba reminds us, and I quote, that to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others, close quote. Last month, on the 27th of April, we celebrated 24 years of democracy, just to remind you, which also marked the end of over 300 years of colonialism and oppression, segregation, and white minority rule. The inauguration of a democratic dispensation in our country enjoined us to work together tirelessly as a nation to eradicate poverty, unemployment, and persistent inequality in our society. This month of May is also Workers' Month, and it is only appropriate for me to use this opportunity to pay respect to our nation's working population, to honor their daily contributions to the nation's wealth and welfare, and to also honor their hard work and dedication towards building the prosperous future we aspire for in our society. We also wish to congratulate the bus drivers, their unions, employers, and all other role players on reaching an amicable wage settlement yesterday. As an ex-mine worker myself, it is not merely an expedient statement from a political platform, but rather an expression of my deep-felt sympathy and appreciation for what our workers do on a daily basis. Where else our democratic South Africa has done much to recognize workers' rights and to enhance their living standards, there is no doubt that we still have much more to do. From a minimum wage to a living wage, from unsafe working and living conditions to decent accommodation and zero-harm environment. We need to make sure that we eliminate workplace prejudices, and in particular, we need to ensure gender equality in terms of access to opportunities and workplace rights across all industries. Most significantly, our focus should be on the elimination of working-class poverty. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to report success in the matter relating to ex-mine workers. To date, we have a reliable database of over 1 million current and former mine workers to work from. Qualifying claimants are paid out on a weekly basis, and in the last 12 months, over 10,000 have been paid with a value of over 250 million rands. We also wish to commend the silicosis class action participants for their successful settlement of over 5 billion rands for specified gold mine workers. There is now over 20 billion rands available to ex-mine workers in the form of medical compensation, pensions, and provident funds. And recently, Harmony reported about 13 potential millionaires amongst their former mine workers. A figure that we will verify and celebrate. 4 special clinics have now been completed in 4 provinces to attend to their free medical benefit examination, plus 7 in SADC labor-sending areas, such as 1 in Botswana and 2 each in Lesotho, Swaziland, and Mozambique. And we want to thank the Global Fund for funding these special clinics called the One-Stop Service Centers. The Logistic Coordinating Center is also up and running, and we want to thank the Chamber of Mines for providing office space and the Gold Working Group for funding the operations, and the LCC staff for their sterling work and dedication to service. We obviously need to accelerate the program and also wish to thank the collaboration between the Department of Labor, the Department of Health, the Department of Mineral Resources on the one hand, and the Chamber of Mines, the Gold Working Group, trade unions such as NUM, NUMSA, AMCU, UASA, and Solidarity for their excellent cooperation. In particular, we wish to recognize all international donor funding that supported this program. At the end of this month, we will also be celebrating yet another milestone in Kimberley, where the former Zamazamas, now called the Kimberley Artisanal Miners, have 2 mining permits that were issued on the 30th of April this year. They also have successfully negotiated a tailings mining resource, TMR, or a dump from Ikapa Mining, and also have access to 500 hectares of diamondiferous ground called floors to mine for themselves. Some of them are already properly licensed to trade and deal in rough diamonds. The collaboration, therefore, between the stakeholders such as the DMR, the Office of the Premier in the Northern Cape, the South African Police Service, Ikapa Mining, Solplaiki Municipality, and the Swedish Housing Company must be commended. We are continuing to legalize what was called illegal mining in a very meaningful way. We, Minister Gwede Mantashe and I, are challenged to focus on the revival and prosperity of the mining sector. Am I running out of time? The masterpiece of our corrective action plan should be to realize what His Excellency President Ramaphosa said in his inaugural State of the Nation address, and I quote, "Mining is another area that has massive unrealized potential for growth and job creation." Honorable members, let me pause here to recognize and welcome the leadership of Honorable Minister Samson Gwede Mantashe to Team DMR, and to applaud him for his swift and decisive leadership displayed in this short time since he joined us. There are issues here that...
Deputy Minister, on the point of order.
Yeah,
What is the point of order?
I rise on Rule 68, relevancy. The Deputy Minister spent 7 minutes on preamble, irrelevant to the... Now he's finishing irrelevant again. He's not talking about minerals now. Now he's busy giving protocols. We don't deal with protocols here.
No, we are out of... It's you who are out of order, man. On Deputy Minister, can you round up? I left with a minute.
Notwithstanding the perpetual prophets of doom amongst us, South Africa remains a resource-rich country. So we are going to continue to ensure that the minerals benefit people of this country, on beneficiation, on rehabilitation, and ensure that we get energy security for our country. In conclusion, because I've run out of time, let me do this and just teach you something that you might not know. Give this quote of Nikolai Ostrovsky in his book, How the Steel Was Campus. Nikolai Ostrovsky, man's dearest, and he says, man's dearest possession is life. It is given to him but once, and he must live it so as to feel no torturing regrets for wasted years. Never to know the burning shame of a mean and petty past, so live that dying he might say, all my life, all my strength were given to this finest cause in the whole world, the fight for the liberation of mankind. We are on EFF. You are going to take a very long time before you learn the ropes of this parliament. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. No, thank you very much, Deputy Minister. The next speaker is Honorable H.V. Nyambi.
Honorable Chair, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Department of Mineral Resources, guests on gallery, I greet you all. As ANC, we support the budget vote. Honorable Chair, we are debating this budget vote when global economic growth is firming and the outlook on commodity prices internationally is positive. However, Our domestic economy has been shedding jobs in key sectors over the past few years, including in the mining industry. The President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, announced in the State of the Nation Address government intention to host an investment conference later this year. The African National Congress believes that our country is an attractive investment destination with as yet unrealized potential. The mining sector in South Africa is recognized internationally by investors that it provides one of the most attractive opportunities for investment. The Department of Mineral Resources has a strategic role to play in terms of its mandate, which is to promote and regulate the mineral and mining for transformation growth and ensuring that all South Africans derive sustainable benefit from the country's mineral wealth. We appreciate that mining is an industry that requires long-term investment. Therefore, the most important role that the department must play is the short term, is to provide policy certainty so that investors are able to make long-term investment decisions. We are encouraged by the work done by the mineral and the department in the ongoing engagement with mining stakeholders, which seeks to resolve disputes around mining charter. Samuel Stulo, hikuya hi section 100 ya nawu wa MPRDA, tsaro ra timayeni ri ni nkoka swinene hikuva ri nyiketa holobye matimba ya ku simeta milawu, maendlelo na mpimanyeto lowu nga ta pfuna vanhu lava sungulaka ku nghena ka mabindzu ya timayini, ngopfungopfu vanhu va ntima lava a va tshilelekile vavasati ni vanhu lavantshwa. As an ANC, we are unapologetic and will never compromise on the mandate our people have given us. Our people voted for the ANC because we made a solemn commitment in our manifesto to beneficiate our mineral wealth and transform the mining sector. We will transform mining so that the benefit of our minerals, the heritage of South Africans, are shared by women, our youth, and our rural communities as we celebrate the year of Mom Albertina Sisulu. That is why our 54th National Conference resolved that as an ANC, we support the broad objective of our newly promulgated mining charter. The consultation on the charter is meant to ensure that investment and employment levels in the sector are not negatively affected. Government will deal decisively with mining companies that resist transformation. As a portfolio committee on mineral resources, we have called repeatedly on the department to provide the names of companies that have failed to meet the transformation targets. We appreciate that in the medium-term expenditure framework period, National Treasury has allocated additional resources to the Council for Geoscience Programs of Geological Mapping, which is essential for promoting minerals prospective, infrastructure development, as well as food and water security. We hope that more resources will be allocated to the project in future in order for the Council to complete its ambitious plan to achieve high-resolution integrated on offshore geoscience mapping. The DMR has to ensure that mining sector remains competitive globally, supporting development of technology, research, and exploration. We are happy that the department has met most of its targets set in the MTEF period in ensuring the delivery of service to the people. The DMR has done well as it has achieved more than 82% of its target in the first 3 quarters of the financial year. The evidence of the efficiency in the department includes the number of mining careers awareness programs and bursaries towards mining-related qualifications. These projects were identified for vulnerable groups and 100% of the targets were achieved. Gender equality strategies, plans were also implemented. The ANC is committed to accelerate radical economic transformation and inclusive growth, with a particular focus on women mining, in order to spread mineral wealth to all our people. As an ANC, we resolve in our conference to create a sovereign wealth fund to ensure that the free carry shares in mining are retained by the state, acting as a custodian of the people as a whole. Government will focus on the beneficiation and the building of high value added infrastructure that will ensure value chain in the medium to long term. As part of transforming the mining industry, and the government will put the place a strategy to inward orient to components of mining which are crucial to the mineral fabrication and engineering activities in support of coherent strategy.
Honorable Matthias, what is the issue?
Rise on a point of privilege. We seem not to be protected because there's no interpreting service. And the member said something, Ashila Shomashov, and I couldn't hear anything about that. It's like we're being abused here.
I'm not sure, I didn't check the issue of the translation, but there must be a translation, though they didn't see you even using it, Matthias. And I thought you understand Tonga, because I didn't see you putting it in your ear. Now you say something that she never said. Okay, Honorable Member, can you round up?
In order to socialize the ownership function and go beyond a narrow focus on the individual empowerment, the ANC has resolved that increased ownership targets in the mining sector should primarily benefit state, community, and employee ownership. In particular, the free carry shares should be held in a trust by the state rather than to be allocated to the few individuals. The state-owned mining company must strengthen so that it can play a significant role in the mining sector. We are confident that the department has the necessary capacity to ensure effective use of the budget to achieve the policy objective of government. Cancer.
Inkomo, we can see them. The next speaker was supposed to be Honorable Carter, so I don't see her. I will then go to Honorable Swat.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the ACDP shares the view expressed by the committee in its report that while the department appears to be a model department with a clean audit and 82% of its performance goals achieved, yet the minerals and mining sector remains in significant disarray. Now, we know that high operating costs and a persistent policy uncertainty has contributed to the decline in investor confidence, and it is shameful that real fixed investment in mining has been stagnant since 2008, and I'm sure, Minister, that is a concern to you as well. The revival and promotion of the mining sector is undoubtedly crucial if South Africa is to reduce unemployment and address poverty and inequality. Now, the ACDP is also very welcoming of the fact of the 5 billion rand historic silicosis-mediated class action settlement. When I first came to Parliament, we went to London with an inter-party group to negotiate the PLC matter, and we are grateful now that a South African settlement has been achieved, one of the biggest and most expensive class action settlements relating to past and present mine workers. The challenge is now, of course, to find those mine workers and to ensure that they have those claims. And of course, remember, if a mine worker has died, the claim goes to his beneficiaries as well, and we need to pass that on. Now, one of the reasons I'm participating in this debate is to highlight the information we obtained in the Eskom inquiry, particularly relating to the coal mining industry. And we are very grateful that this committee has decided on a formal inquiry into the role of former Minister Zwane and others. It was, what we need to ask ourselves is how we as Parliament got into this situation and what steps are being taken. And yes, there's a commission of inquiry, but we as Parliament need to exercise our oversight in this regard and ensure that something like this never happens again. And what was the most shocking to us and other members of that committee was how Eskom and the department treated existing major mining companies, including Exxaro, which has been a pioneering force for BEE in the mining industry. And Minister, I trust that you'd read the statement and evidence, and I trust that the committee members that are engaging in this formal inquiry will also read the evidence. Whilst Eskom and the department was leaning over backwards to accommodate the purchase of Optimum by the Gupta-related Tegeta, Exxaro and other companies were desperate for assistance, wrote to the department, wrote to the minister, tried to have meetings with the then CEO, Brian Molefe, but were totally ignored. Even the National Union of Mine Workers approached the department in an attempt to prevent the closure of the Arnott mine, which was then closed with the loss of 1,500 jobs. That is disgraceful. There's 70 million tons there still. Sorry, 1 minute?
Round up, yes.
Round up. Lastly, Chair, may I just say the ACDP wishes to extend its sympathies with the families of all miners who have died in the last year. Every life lost is a tragedy. And in the last few minutes, I would also like to say, Minister, whilst I appreciate your sentiment about Palestine, and whilst we are saddened at the loss of life yesterday in Israel on the Gaza border, we are disappointed at the recall of the SA ambassador. This will deprive us as a nation from playing a meaningful mediation role in the Middle East. We need to call on us to work for peace and pray for peace in the Middle East. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Ham Israel Chai. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Honorable Godi.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, comrades and honorable members. I also would want to congratulate the Minister on his maiden budget speech. I listened carefully to your presentation and that of the Deputy Minister, and want to assure you of the support of the APC and all Africanists, especially when we deal with matters of transformation, because this is an industry that is yearning for transformation. Mining and agriculture were actually the most pronounced in the colonial relations of production, and were industries that, in a classical Marxist description of primitive accumulation, literally dripping from every pore with the blood of the workers. So we need transformation, substantive transformation. And when I talk of transformation, beyond the mere change of ownership, where Africans own mines, Africans buy shares, but the culture in the mines remain colonial, they remain the same. That cannot be transformation. Remain the same to the extent that it relates to the attitude and the treatment and the position of the workers in relation to the wage structure, in relation to accommodation, in relation to mining deaths, where issues of mine safety are not given the kind of attention that they should. Transformation in relation to how mining companies relate to communities, where when you go to Skukuni, you go to Mukopane, and anywhere else where minerals are being mined on a daily basis, but those communities are worse off than the villagers in Bushbuck where there's no mining. The mining charter and the social labor plans that are meant to ensure that communities are an active and integral part of the mining processes are not properly monitored. They are not enforced at all. Mining companies do as they please. So if we're talking transformation, Comrade Minister, for me, it will be that when I go to Skukuni, I should find that there is a new culture, there's a new relationship between the communities and the mining companies. And the department is able to enforce legislation. Comrade Deputy Minister, you touched on an important issue around ex-mine workers.
A minute left.
Ex-mine workers. I really would want to urge that the plight of ex-mine workers should be attended to much more strongly than a program under your department. The totality of government and the totality of society. Yes, you have a list, how reliable it is. Why do we still have people who might be outside that list? Why should it be difficult for us to match a person and the mine where they were working and the benefits that they should get? Why should it be a never-ending process and others, dying without having received the benefits that are due? And lastly, the question of illegal miners. I'm happy that government is doing something. It should have been done yesterday. Because the people who are called zamazamas derogatively are disparate people who have the skills, who are hungry, who see opportunities. They need to be brought into the mainstream so that they can, they assist us in alleviating the unemployment challenges in our country. Comrade Minister, the APC will support the budget. I hope you are still a communist. And not,
Thank you very much, Honorable God. Your time has expired. The next speaker is Honorable Kobiso.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Honorable members, as the NFP, we welcome the minister of this department. We hope that he brings to the department the much needed experience that he gained as a unionist and also working in mines. Minister, you have to hit the ground running. There is so much transformation that is needed in this department. The first thing to do is to ensure that the mining industry does not become a death knell for mine workers. The recent death of mine workers by a Stillwater mine has left the whole nation mourning. The continued suffering of mine workers who succumb to TB and other ailments tells a sordid story of an industry that has got to wake up and attend to these issues. And most mine workers, the bosses, captains of this industry, still put profit above the welfare, safety, and health of workers. The capitalistic motive, Minister, still supersedes the lives of the working class. And this should not be the case. And from 2014 to today, the National Freedom Party has been very vocal about the companies, especially the multinationals, that expropriate our mines and take the products abroad, across the seas, to be purified and sold at the value that is determined by them, whilst our people are languishing in poverty and unemployment. We said that those companies from abroad that do mining in South Africa must take South African miners, mine workers on board, particularly the companies that are owned by the black entrepreneurs. It is not sufficient to produce a few mining magnates. We need more people, especially our black folk that will be involved in this industry, Chairperson. The captains of industry have been experts on the issue of neglecting communities in the proximity of the mining companies. Mining companies must build houses for communities that are next to them. They must build clinics, schools, and recreational facilities. Minister, we support the consultation that we have embarked on, and with regard to bringing all stakeholders on board. And it is hoped that this will contribute towards the review of the Mineral and Petroleum Resources Development Act 28 of 2002 and other legislative frameworks that will ensure regulation of the mining industry, like the establishment of the Mining Company of South Africa as the state-owned mining company and the finalization of the African Expropriation and Finance Corporation Bill and the amendment to the Mine Health and Safety Act of 29 of 1996. The department has a sole mandate, comrades, and it is to promote and regulate minerals and the mining sector for transformation, growth and development, and to ensure that all South Africans derive sustainable benefits from the mineral wealth.
A minute
And
left.
this has not been the case. And as the NFB will say, Minister, these are the issues, Deputy Minister, that will have to be looked to, because they are very important for all of us as South Africans, and also to bring that confidence to the investors, especially in this industry. I think these are issues that we feel that are pertinent and have to be looked. We support the budget. Thank you very much.
No, thanks very much, Honorable Kovisa. The next speaker is Honorable Matlala.
Yes, thank you. Kamalama daughter. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Comrade Mantashe, the Minister. Comrade Oliphant, Deputy Minister, Ministers and Deputy Ministers present here. The Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Comrade Z, in absentia. Members of the Portfolio Committee, Chairpersons and CEOs of the entities present here. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow South Africans, Dubela. Mshate Swat. Honorable Chair, Mineral Resources is one of the better performing departments of our government. As the ANC, we are proud that the Department of Mineral Resources and most of its entities have once again achieved clean audit outcomes in the previous financial year. Comrade Chair, this represents a perfect scorecard and progress for 3 years in a row. We are confident that the DMR will achieve the same audit outcome this year. This vote supports legislation and policies that the DMR is responsible for, which includes the MPRDA, Mine Health and Safety Act, as well as the Mining Charter. The strategic aim of these policies is to ensure that there is equitable access to the benefits of mineral resources to all our people. Comrade Chair, the department has a mandate to ensure that mining is suitable and that the potential environmental hazard of mining are mitigated through the monitoring of adherence to environmental laws. Comrade Minister and the Chair, our communities, particularly people living in large rural provinces, bear the brunt of the misapplication or neglect of our government's policies. In this regard, the DMR has a responsibility, Chair, to ensure that the mining companies conduct meaningful consultation with our communities on the impact of mining and how this operation can stimulate local economic through providing jobs, utilizing local service providers for mining supplies, and creating local manufacturing, logistics, and service industries. Honorable Chair, sustainability is key to ensuring that the economic benefit of mining extend beyond the life of the mine itself. The new approach of mining is a sunrise industry, therefore means some of the practice of the past whereby mining was responsible for serious environmental and health hazard to our people have to be combated and reversed. Honorable Chair, the Department of Mineral Resources was allocated budget of 1.8 billion for the 2017 and 18 financial year. This represents a 7% increase of 118 million, more than the amount allocated in the 2016 and 17 financial year. Therefore, the DMR has demonstrated an impressive stability to spend its budget. The sign of sound financial management and control of the DMR is that it has been spending exactly 100% of its budget, or slightly less, by the end of each financial year. At the end of the third quarter of the previous financial year, Chair, the DMR had spent 77.3% of its allocated budget. In the previous financial year, the department has spent 76.3% at the same point in the year. By December 2017, the department had transferred 722.4 million in the transfer and subsidies to the entities under its supervision. This share represents 81% of the 896.8 million, which was the amount budgeted for this purpose. The department expenditure was 652.8 million, or about 74% of the allocated budget at the end of the third quarter. Therefore, this is the greatest proportion of this amount went to compensation of workers as well as goods and services. This level of consistency in spending and accountability adds value to the exercise of our oversight functions as Parliament. It also places us firm
2 minutes left.
as a portfolio committee to monitor the improvement in the quality of expenditure and its alignment to the ANC government's progressive policies. The only item of spending on which the department fell short was the Mineral Policy and Promotion Program. The amount spent was lower by 50.3 million of what was projected for. The explanation for this shortfall was that the payment for membership fees for the African diamond producing countries was delayed, and the planned mining charter and the shale gas advocacy events were halted pending the finalization of the court challenge brought by the mining bosses against the promulgation of Mining Charter 3. As the ANC, we believe, in spite of the difficult fiscal space in which we are considering Vote 29, it will go a long way towards progressively changing the lives of our people. The progressive impact of the votes, Chair, include: 1, reducing fatalities, serious injuries, and occupational health diseases, a trend we have observed in the past few years. Scaling up of HIV/AIDS and TB programs, including testing and treatment. The third one, increase investment exploration activity and thus higher rates of employment. All this, Chair, the programs and many others should inspire hope among our people. The ANC support the budget vote. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. The next speaker is Honorable Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm missing the Director General here this morning. I see there's a former Director General, Mrs. Lukina, and I see a former acting Director Generals, but no Director General. Maybe there's another Director General, and they are more often changed than the ministers seem to be changed, Honourable Minister. But may I start by saying, Honourable Chair, that the problems facing the mining industry are unfortunately increasing on a daily basis. Minister Gwede Mantashe has already shown that during his short tenure, that by implementing ANC policies and taking a hostile approach towards the mining industry, the conditions and problems facing the mining industry will certainly worsen. Some reasons for the increasing crisis caused by the following examples of ANC mismanagement are: undue delays and anti-industry views by the ANC in the adoption of the ill-conceived Mining Charter 3, creating international embarrassment, more uncertainty, and an increasing lack of investment. This is causing investors to stop investing in the mining sector, as well as mining companies discontinuing mining investments in its own mines. What the ANC government ostensibly does not care about is that the perceived risk to mining investment in South Africa increases with every negative and hostile ANC statement aimed towards mining owners and investors. The fact that the department lost a recent once empowered, always empowered High Court case brought by the Chamber of Mines is a clear indication that the ANC's policies are inequitable and unfair, talking about the Mining Charter. In addition, the pending High Court application to declare the 2010 Mining Charter unconstitutional also increases regulatory and investor uncertainty. The MPRDA Amendment Bill, adopted in 2014 by the previous Parliament, still needs to be finalised. A clear sign of ineptitude and lack of urgency by the ANC, with total disregard to the mining industry. South Africa is currently classified as possibly one of the least viable African countries to invest in the mining sector, with no signs of an imminent improvement. The state diamond trader, which has the responsibility to buy and make diamonds available to the South African diamond industry, continues to hold the diamond cutting and polishing community to ransom. It barely manages to sell a mere 15% of the legally mandated 10% of mine production in South Africa to the local industry. In total, 0.15% of all diamonds mined in the country. It is appalling. This failure appears to be tolerated for the benefit of 20 well-paid officials at the cost of potentially hundreds, if not thousands, of new and emerging diamond cutters and polishers. The SDT, in its current format, budget, and mandate, is clearly not viable and failing in its mandate. Outstanding strategies such as the coal and women in mining strategies, a belated beneficiation policy, a 100-year plan to address derelict and abandoned mines at the current rate of funding, a plethora of acting positions in the department, underfunding of the Council for Geosciences, which will cause the Council to take 30 years to finalise its 1 to 50,000 mapping of South Africa, are all good examples as to why this department will not resolve the critical issues under the ANC government. With platinum output shrinking 6.1%, following a drop of another 16% in February, and gold production slumping 18%, a 6th month of contraction, clearly indicates that this ANC government must realise its policies are turning the mining industry into a sunset industry. A DA government will urgently address these issues. Regulatory certainty and investor-friendly government fair to all stakeholders, including to communities affected by mining, a drive for investment, rooting out state capture.
1 minute.
A solution to the increase of illegal mining are some of the issues which will be urgently addressed by a DA government. Honourable Minister, the sooner you stop creating an ANC-driven false impression of the industry and start implementing the correct measures to improve the mining investment environment, the quicker South Africa will be able to recover to being the mining powerhouse it should be. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Schmidt. Honourable Nkosi Mandela.
Honorable Chairperson, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, fellow members of Parliament, respected members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was born in Mvezo Komkhulu and not in Nasrec, as pronounced by the Interministerial Committee last week. Born to the Eastern Cape Province, that contributes 38% of migrant laborers, yet it is still remaining as one of the least developed provinces in our country. I therefore bring you greetings on this centennial celebration year in which we pay tribute to the father of our nation, hero of the African continent's struggle for freedom, prosperity, and development, and a global icon for human rights, justice, and peace. In that regard, we want to condemn the actions of apartheid Israel on slaughtering innocent Palestinians on their march of great return, and we pay our tribute to the fallen soldiers and shall continue as South Africans supporting the cause of the Palestinian people. Allow me, therefore, Honorable Chairperson, to also take this opportunity to welcome Nosimo Palindlela for returning home and leaving the DA. And we want to say that on this centennial year, we will see many more return home to the African National Congress. I want to thank the Minister Mantashe and the Department of Mineral Resources for a job well done. They continue to serve the mandate entrusted to them with distinction and work in one of the most complex and challenging environments in the South African economy. The expectations are high as mining remains a major contributor to the GDP and a key player in growing our nation's wealth. This expectation is enshrined in our Freedom Charter, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights that unshamingly affirms, I quote, that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white, and the mineral wealth beneath the soil, close quote. Honorable Chairperson, over the past 24 years of democracy, this department has consistently been contributing towards the realization of our vision of a developmental state through effective service delivery and ensuring that South Africans derive sustainable benefits from the country's mineral wealth. We acknowledge those industry players who have been true patriots and contributed towards the achievement of the goals of the mining industry charters, and caution those who persistently fail to deliver on their promise that they do so at their own detriment and peril. This industry, and by extension, our country, needs a partner that is serious about embracing the imperatives of radical economic transformation. The mining sector has shown more than 70% increase in the number of mines since 2004 and a 12% increase in employment over the same period, despite experiencing the harshest trading conditions in decades, primarily as a result of weak commodity prices. The mineral resource sector remains a sector contributor to South Africa's economy because of the 500,000 workers it employs directly and because of the minerals used to value chains from energy to manufacturing. It is especially important that we intensify our efforts to beneficiate the full industry value chain so that the position this sector to optimize the potential of the 2.3 trillion mineral reserves that still lies beneath the soil. We therefore remain hopeful for a sustained recovery, as it is critical for supporting a strong industry that is able and fully engaged the imperative of radical economic transformation. It is common knowledge that this industry is responsible for more than half of South Africa's earnings from exports and is critical to the ability of the economy to earn foreign exchange and reduce the trade deficit. That is why this industry and this budget vote is such of critical importance. Honorable Chairperson, the statistics provide great encouragement and reason for enhanced cooperation between all stakeholders within the mining sector. This especially true is the case of improving the interface between the mining and manufacturing sectors as an increased supply of mining sector products for further processing of value addition by an expanding domestic manufacturing base would tend to reduce the mining sector's vulnerability to the external demand conditions. Honorable Lorimer, I beg to differ with you on the State Diamond Trader, which seeks to promote equitable access to and beneficiation of diamonds resources, addresses distortions in the diamond industry, and developing innovative black entrepreneurs such as Mr. Kyalebo Khapule, who is amongst us today, of Nungu Diamonds, who is attending this debate today. It is of such efforts, Honorable Lorimer, that we shall never shut down the State Diamond Trader. It continues to ensure that young black entrepreneurs have access to the 10% run-of-mine diamonds that they can be able to cut and polish and gain entry to international markets. You ought to accompany them to the Hong Kong Jewelry and Gem exhibition, which will be held in September, and you will see the work that they do. It is in that regard that, as the ANC, we want to ensure that the black entrepreneurs continue receiving support, and we shall never let them down and shall never shut down this hopeful achievement on part of the department. Honorable Chairperson, there is no doubt that the Department of Mineral Resources has acquitted itself well in the implementation of its mandate to promote and regulate the minerals and mining sector for transformation, growth, and development, as well as to ensuring that all South Africans derive sustainable benefits from the country's mineral wealth. However, the ongoing impasse with respect to the finalization of mining charter is of serious concern and needs to be resolved. We are now approaching midway into 2018, and it appears that we are still not fully on track to the extent that contributes to the much needed policy certainty. In this regard, Honorable Minister, we need to firmly drive the process of finalizing the mining charter and the Mineral Petroleum Resources Development Amendment Bill with the aim of improving investor confidence. At the heart of the mining charter lies the question of radical economic transformation, which we are so fully committed towards. Transformation means the ownership, control, management, and meaningful participation by the black majority in the industry. It is in this regard then, Honorable Lorimer, I want to assure you that 26% is certainly not enough. We will seek to increase this to 30%, to 49%, to 51%, so that black people can be able to have a full ownership of mining operations in our country. Whilst we understand that the desired transformation can only occur in the growing and competitive mining industry, we need to ensure that there is a meeting of the minds between the state, business, labor, and all critical stakeholders. Our emphasis on transformation, Honorable Godi, is on a mining industry that benefits all stakeholders. However, industry should wake up to the reality that South Africa is under ever-increasing social and political pressure to quantum leap industry transformation, and therefore it needs to respond with greater agility and speed in its own interest of self-preservation, growth, and development. In the same vein, the DMR has committed to engage in an open and transparent way to re-establish trust among social partners. Through collaborative efforts, the partners can significantly minimize the negative impact of the impending social crisis.
2 minutes.
We delay such an agenda at our own peril. We cannot allow that the gains of the past 2.5 decades be compromised when that is required is to steer up ever close to what His Excellency President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa described as a new sunrise for an industry that occupies such a critical importance place in our national economy and our national fabric. Honorable Chairperson, in conclusion, we call on all stakeholders in the mining industry to consolidate our collective effort in making this country truly great. We have achieved some amazing accomplishments as the nation and as an industry. In the words of Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela in his address to the Chamber of Mines in November 1994, and I quote, "The South African mining industry is entering a new phase and an exciting era. It has an opportunity to deal with the new challenges in conditions that allow it to draw on the skills, imagination, and the determination of all," close quote. These words ring true now as it did back then. We have the potential to reach for even greater heights. Let us not disappoint ourselves as well as those who have placed their trust in us. The legacy lives on and the dream shall never die. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mandela. We now call upon the Honorable Minister of Mineral Resources.
I think we should appeal to the Speaker of Parliament to extend time for mining. Let me start off by helping the DA. Let me help the DA. The DA is thriving on divide and rule. We're engaging with the chamber, hence there are many of them here. We're talking to each other, trust is developing, and they don't have the same feeling as the DA, so you don't represent them. You represent your own feelings. Now, yes, even that, I have not seen you. We've gone to 7 areas. I have not seen the DA there. That's why the DA will stick to its position, irrespective. We're talking to communities, we're talking to everybody in the industry. Now, the DA is asking us, why should we create wealthy blacks instead of creating mine workers? It's the same attitude they have with agriculture, that we should not create black farmers, we must create farm workers. I think that view of the DA is dangerous to all of us. On health and safety, as raised by, in terms of health and safety as raised by EFF, it's a maiden speech. Please don't heckle. It's a maiden speech. Don't heckle, please. Now, you raised the question of health and safety. It's an issue that we are dealing with. Over the last 10 years, you may have ignored that there have been a continuous decline in the number of fatalities in the industry. That was broken in 2017. We're worried by the 33 who have died up to now, that it may actually pick up again. I think we are paying attention to that. The second thing is we are investing in nurturing critical mass of world-class scientists. Amongst our guests here today are 4 young people from the Council for Geoscience who recently acquired PhDs in geoscience. That Dr. Takane Ntoli, I think they should stand. Dr. Taufin Tasang, Dr. Nigel Hicks, and Emmanuel Sakala. I have no doubt that they will continue to make an immense contribution to the betterment of the sector. Thank you very much. One more. Want to see more PhDs in that regard. Not even one party rejected the budget, including the DA and the EFF.
Chair.
Okay.
Chair.
Okay.
Order, Chair.
Sorry, Honorable Minister. Honorable Khawla.
Chair, I'm rising on point 92. The minister is out of order. He's misleading the House. We have rejected the budget vote. The EFF is on record. It has rejected the budget vote. Please.
Okay, Honorable Khawla, I'm sure the committee
we must not be distorted.
Thank you.
In hindsight, the EFF want to not support the budget. Fine. Now, I can assure you that we're filling critical vacancies in the department. We're doing that. We're filling critical positions in the department for the department to have the necessary capacity. The new culture between mining companies and communities is something that we are discussing with the industry. We've given them feedback that, listen, in those communities, there's a complaint that both the DMR and mining companies are not consulting those communities enough. And we've committed ourselves and the industry to improve on that. I want to appeal to all of you to read the whole statement. We have not finished it. Read it, because only when you have read all that statement will you have the sense of what we're doing. As I sit down, I want to thank my predecessors.
But 1 minute.
My predecessors. I see Umamsonji Kaulap is my predecessor. I want to thank Godfrey Oliphant, the Deputy Minister of Natural Resources. I want to thank Team DMR for the hard work, and we're hoping that will grow into the most effective team. I want to thank my wife, Nolwandle, who is here, and my children who are giving me continued support and encouragement. Umfazi ke uhamba nomyeni wakhe pa utsira, you see. Uhamba nomyeni wakhe utsira pa, umkhulu wam. So I thank all of them for the support. I want to thank the chairperson and the committee for working well with me. I've been summoned few times in the short time I've been here to go and account to the committee. I appreciate that. Summon me more
Honorable
so that we
Minister.
can work together. Lastly,
Chair.
Minister,
I want
time
to
is up.
express my appreciation for
Chair.
the acceptance of budget vote number 29.
Honorable Minister, your time is up. Honorable Matthias?
Okay.
House Chair,
Yes, Honorable.
while the minister is still on the podium,
Order, Honorable man. Honorable Matthias?
I want to
Pardon?
find out if the minister can take a question.
Oh. Honorable
Okay, thank
Minister.
you very much. Okay. So I thank everybody.
Honorable Minister, will you take a question?
No, I'm not taking any question. I'm
You
concluding.
won't take a question. Sorry.
I'm concluding. I'm not taking questions. I'm
Honorable
concluding.
Minister, your time is up.
You see. Thank you very much to everybody. I appreciate that you all came here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to remind members. Order. Order. Honorable members, I just want to remind members that the debate on trade and industry budget vote will take place at 14 hours in the National Assembly chamber, and the debate on public works budget vote will take place also at 14 hours in the old Assembly chamber, and the debate on international relations and cooperation budget vote will also take place at 14 hours in committee room E249, this venue. So that concludes the debate and business of this mini plenary session. Mini plenary will now rise. Thanks.